Welcome back to Layman's Tech. Now, this video is the second part and hopefully the last on the topic of variables. In the first video, we defined variables and showed some of the reasons why we use variables in programming. Today, we'll be talking about data types, and hopefully we'll get into the IDE and write some code to demonstrate the use of variables. Now let's consider the topic of data types. When we create a variable, we have to tell the computer what type of data the variable will contain. A data type is a word we associate with a variable so that the computer knows what type of data it will be storing in memory for that variable. In this picture below, you see that the name Nick is made up of the characters of the alphabet. Age, as you know, is usually counted as the number of years, and the variable weight can also be represented as a decimal number in pounds. It is therefore said that the variable name is of different data type than age, and both name and age are of different data types than the variable weight. Now, so here are some of the reasons why we use data types with variables. A data type helps the computer understand what type of data is stored in memory. As an example, a person's age is a number, but their name is made up of letters of the alphabet. Also, a data type helps the computer know what it can or cannot do with the data. As an example, the computer knows that it can multiply numbers, but it also knows that multiplication is not a possibility with letters of the alphabet. Another importance of data types that I haven't included on this slide is that variables help the computer to know how much memory space is needed in order to store the data. Every data you store in the computer must take up some amount of memory storage. But here is one important thing to know. All data do not use the same amount of memory. For example, a number such as 10 will need less amount of space than, say, a person's first name such as Theodore. Now, there is much more in-depth meaning to this point, which is why I decided to not show it on the slide. I know that most of you guys watching this video are absolute beginners, and this particular point can take us as far as understanding bits and bytes. I mean, how bits and bytes work, and that in itself is a topic of a whole discussion. But at the very least, for now, just know that when we tell the computer that we want to store some data, we must also tell the computer the type of data that is. So before we proceed to the NetBeans IDE to write some code, I thought that I show you some examples of data types. First of which is the integer type, which is mostly represented with the keyword int in programming, and some of the values for that particular data type is 34 whole numbers, 34, 35, 1, something like that. Character is used for storing character data, example A. Boolean can also be used to store true or false values. With Boolean data types, there is a lot more we can talk about in order to understand that data type. But for now, just know that it stores true or false values. Another data type is what's called a string. So here's the thing about strings and characters. With char, it's just a single character, but a string could be made up of a sequence of characters. So a name is a string because it contains two or more characters, right? But something like grade, school grade can be measured as just can be represented with just a character such as A. So let's talk about the next one, which is double. It is also a data type in Java for storing decimal numbers, and an example could be 23.5, etc. So now let's go to NetBeans to understand variable declaration, initialization, and assignment. So we're now in NetBeans IDE, and we are going to be writing some code. In this IDE, we will demonstrate two things, which are first variable declaration, and then we move on to variable assignment and initialization. So before you can put a variable in your code, these are three things you have to do. First of all, you have to specify the type of data, which is known as the data type. And also we have to specify the name of the variable. And then after we've provided these information, we can go ahead and assign values to the variable. So here's how you do it. First of all, let me type out these three variables, and then we will analyze them. So we'll do the first one being string as the data type and first name as the variable name, and then the second one, car, being the data type, and then first name initial being the variable name, and then we'll do the next one being int as the data type and then age as the name. Then last. So now with first name being of type string, we can store a sequence of characters. With first name initial being of type char, we can store a character such as M, and also with age being of type int, we can store a number such as 22. And finally, with Ismail being of type Boolean, we can store values such as true or false. So now the process of putting the value inside the variable is what's called assignment, and here's how we do that. We simply take the variable's name, like first name, and then we do that name equals the value, such as Muhammad. So with character, we also take the variable's name, which is the first name initial, and then do that name equals the value. Now here is something Here's the thing about strings and characters. You notice that before we typed out the value for a string variable, we used double quotes. We had to put the value inside of double quotes. That is just a syntactical way of doing it. If you do it otherwise, you're going to get an error. The Java compiler expects that before you put a string value, you have to enclose it in a pair of double quotes. Character, on the other hand, uses just a single quote. But if you try to put more than one characters in that pair of single quotes, you're gonna get an error. So that is just the Java way of representing strings and characters. So with age, However, since we've declared that to be of type int, we can just do the age variable name equals just any number, maybe 32, maybe 27. Now, this is perfectly acceptable in Java code. You don't have to put a number inside of any pair of quotes or any pair of single quotes. The thing is that the compiler is able to recognize the number just as it is as a number and be able to work with it. So with isMale as being of Boolean type, we can also do something as simple as isMale equals true, or we can even change that to false. And the compiler also recognizes Boolean values as is. You don't have to put them in any pair of single or double quotes. It just recognizes it, and that's how the compiler works. So far we've covered variable declaration and assignment. The first part of which we did string first name, char first name initial, int age, and boolean isMale are all variable declarations. It is just a process of stating the data type and the variable name. That is what's referred to as the variable declaration. Now, variable assignment or assignment of value to the variable comes from this equal to keyword. Now, in arithmetic, the equal to operator means equality, but in Java programming, that is not the case. You use the equal to operator as what's called the assignment operator. So what this means is that this variable first name, put the value Muhammad there. This variable first name initial, put the value A there. This variable age, put the value 27 there. You get the point. So now, what is then variable initialization? So this is just a way to show programmers that it is possible that you declare the variable and assign a value to it right at the spot when you declared the variable. So for example, with the first name variable declaration, we could have done something like string first name equals, then we assign a value right over there. So that's valid in programming, and this way of doing it is called the variable initialization. So this does it for us on the topic of variables. I hope you found the content useful. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more software engineering concepts. Thank you.